Okay. Okay. So there were a bunch of like celebrities and whatever people like following me, and like apparently they found out that like I was purchasing their products, and they didn't like that because they're like, these products are not for you. They're for people who make at least 60K a year after taxes. And I'm like, okay, if that's true, then why are you selling in the public? You're selling this at malls, you're selling this on the street, you can purchase it online. And they're like, I know, but I know it's available for the public, but it's actually not for the public. And I'm like, that means that you're selling it to private distributors, that you have your own clientele and you're making that. And they're like, no, you just can't purchase these because you're from a lower income bracket. And I'm like, so you're saying nobody in my income bracket purchases these higher products? How are you making so much profit a year then? And they're like, yeah, we just like to tell these to people in your income bracket specifically because they all steal and lie, and like the reason why they got there is even if they had a lot of money to begin with, they were stupid and they lost everything. And I'm like, I don't disagree with you because I know a lot of people in the income bracket that are like that, but at the same time, I'm not actually like that, and you're assuming a lot of things that aren't true about me. And then you start to get racist, and then you start breaking the law, and then you start stealing from me, and you're telling me that you're actually of a higher income bracket. That's so weird. I don't think they are, but that's what they're telling me. And I think the problem was that like the higher income bracket, right? It's actually like, okay, so this is like, I get that like a lot of people didn't really understand like why I'm not like those people, and they thought that I was faking it, or like I was just pretending so that I can sell more things. And I was like, that wasn't what I was doing. And I get that a lot of people didn't believe me when I said I wasn't related to the Foster family, even though it was super obvious. We don't even look alike. Because they're racist. Like, white people can't tell different races, right? They're like, I don't even know if they can tell different like white people races. Neither can the Chinese people. Chinese people actually think everyone's Chinese. That's the fucked up part. I'm like, the fuck. And so like, they've been having problems for a while now actually. So I'm like, yeah, I actually didn't do anything wrong. And if I go by your logic, which is like everyone from that income bracket is actually very poor, and you're right, they're poor people. Um, they actually can't afford a lot of things, and they go broke and they start stealing and doing all that crap. Like that's what we're expecting. And I'm like, yes, you're right. People from the income bracket do those things because they put themselves in a position, right, in a situation such as getting mortgages and getting financing, and living within not living within their means, right? So like they spend a lot of frivolous money just to make sure that it looks like they're from a higher income bracket. And I'm like, yes, I agree. And I'm like, that, why do you think that happened where I specifically had to leave? And they're like, you're telling me that the only reason they were able to get by was because they were stealing from you. And I'm like, yes. They kicked me out after I told them not to steal, and I reported all of it, right? And I told everyone they were just stealing. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, what you're saying makes sense. Like, literally, people from the income bracket do those kind of stuff. That's why they don't make it that much money. In the case that they did have a large, significant amount of inheritance, they spent it all without actually generating an income, right? So that means there's no revenue, there's no profit, right? They're not making a profit. And just like a very small thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, like, you're right. Right, people from that income bracket are very poor, very poverty stricken, and yeah, it's illegal for you to discriminate against them because not everybody's like that. Because specifically, there's these things that other things are involved in, such as adoption, such as rehabilitation, such as mental illnesses, such as blah 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 blah. Right, just because they're poor doesn't mean they're unskilled. Just because they don't make a certain amount of income, because realistically speaking, their income level isn't their own. Like, they don't get to decide how much money they make. That's the thing, right? A lot of people know this. I mean, if you're a very wealthy person who says you get to decide how much income you make, you're not doing something right, okay? You're doing something illegal, or you're taking advantage of other people, and that's how you're making that money, which means it's technically a lot of your wealth is stolen. You're not actually that wealthy. So that's what I was saying. I'm like, yes, you're right, those people are poor. They do those kinds of things because they're very, very poor. They don't know how to generate an income because the reason why they're poor is because they're stupid. There's something wrong with their genetics, right? They're very, their genes aren't very good, but you include them because they're still capable of working and being skilled enough to hold down a job to a certain extent of the certain period of time where they spend that money on your products. If that wasn't true, you would be making very little money. You'd be the same thing as a small business owner in Toronto. Like, that's how much money you'd be making, right? You'd be running a boutique or like some sort of like indie perfumery or like all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't be making that much money. The reason you're making that much money is because people from this income bracket is purchasing your products because they don't want to cheap out on poor quality products where it gets them actually sick. Right? That's the only other option because that's what you guys as an industry have decided. This is how much things cost and these are how much these people are worth per salary. And getting all those people involved to mass produce and mass market all these items costs a lot of money, right? And that's why, because you're doing quality assurance, which you also have to pay for, right, from the manufacturing, which you also have to pay for. People still have to pay their bills in their business, right? It costs a certain amount of money just so you can make even profit, so you can continue to make those products, right? Because people who purchase your products, they like that product because they can rely on it. That's the thing. And if it wasn't for people from that income bracket, regardless of whether they've stolen or not, you wouldn't have as much money as you do currently. Because people from a higher income bracket aren't actually purchasing those products that you're selling. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Most of the time, they don't actually purchase those products. They purchase very high-end products that cost a lot of money, and they're very, very specifically targeted to a certain demographic, right? They wouldn't be able to afford that or even have access to those things. That's how they're making their money, but you chose to make your money other way because you wanted to be, just like those people, a part of the very wealthy population. And yeah, it's hard to make money. It's hard for a lot of people to make money. It's not easy. A lot of people assume it is. You don't get to decide on your income. You don't get to decide who likes your products. You don't get to decide people who slander you, people who do illegal activities, which costs you. And you may get reimbursed or not, but at the end of the day, they've done significant damage to your business, right? And you as a person. All that kind of stuff taken into account, it's not easy to make a lot of money. And I get that a lot of people didn't really understand that. And I'm agreeing with you, right? Like, I get that. People from a lower income bracket are like this because of their own reasons. And the reason why is because they've done things in their past that reflect on their legal status and their criminal history. Or they've done stuff like screw people over in their personal life, which may not reflect in their legal status or whatever, but you can tell when you meet these people in person. And I get that a lot of people, they only know me through social media, and a lot of people edit and act and write things ahead of time to present to the public, right? Because that's actually being appropriate. You can't just present yourself as a piece of shit. That's offensive, and it's actually very degrading to yourself. And I know, I get that. But I'm saying, if you know that to be true, then why are you assuming that I'm the part of it if they're getting by? You know what I mean? Like, how do you think they were getting by? By stealing, right? That's the only way it makes sense. Who do you think they were stealing from? A person who has more than them, right? Like, obviously, one day that person's gonna run out of stuff for them to steal. And then what? And then what? Like, how are they gonna get their stuff after? Like I said, in the town that I was living in before, that's what they were doing. They were from a very poor income bracket. Why do you think they intentionally had this cooperative or government housing in the middle of a neighborhood that looked very wealthy? It was a very nice neighborhood with very large property, but there was a government housing project right in the center of the neighborhood. Why was that? Because they're not actually making that much more money than they are. Even if they're above the poverty line, they're just right above the poverty line. And they've managed to scrimp and save enough money to purchase a property there, right? Even though they didn't have it initially, they managed to pay off their mortgages, right? That's what they're supposed to do when they get the mortgage, is to make sure that they have enough money to pay it off. that's like a guarantee when you're getting a mortgage, when you're like, I don't have that much money right now, but I guarantee you I will have that money somehow. I just need that extra, because it's currently like, I don't know, currently I kind of need that thing right now, and if I could get it a little bit earlier, then I would love to, right? Or maybe currently I can't currently live in that place that I'm living in, and if I can afford to get a loan to move to a different unit or different place, then I would love to, because I can pay you back for sure. I don't have to worry about that. That's what they were saying. And yeah, and I get that, like, a lot of people in that town were doing that, and I'm like, yeah, they were getting by because of me. It's just weird that, like, you kept on thinking that somehow I was involved in it, or like I was letting them do that, like as if crimes are something that people consent to. If they did, it wouldn't be a crime. And a lot of these famous people actually just wanted an excuse to, like, shit on me, because they were actually innately jealous of me, because I actually generate more income than they do. That's it. Like, people like me a lot better than they do. I generate more income. The only reason they're there is because they know people in that industry. They're family members or friends or long-term classmates or whatever. That's how they got in there. And I'm like, yeah, that's what a lot of people are like at the poverty, below income level. Wealthy people don't actually do that because it's stupid. It's gonna cause problems later. You can't just know everybody in your professional life and know everybody in your personal life and have it be the same people. That means you don't actually have a social life. It's unhealthy. Right? It's not really actually like you knowing anyone. Like, you're working class citizens. That's what that means. And everybody knows it. They've been very discriminated against. But because they manage to scrimp and save and purchase property in the wealthier neighborhoods, don't think that they don't know. They do. They were like, oh my god. And people think that there's no such thing as people who make that much money. And I'm like, you have no idea. There are people who make a very large amount of money per year. Like, their take-home pay is more than your entire life. The amount you've made in your entire life. Okay? Your entire family's income, like your immediate family's income, is what they make a month. There are people like that, okay? They've been doing that for a while now because that's what their family does. Their family is known for that kind of stuff because they're wealthy people. The reason why these discrimination laws exist is because what they can do is what other people also can do, right? Because again, it actually causes problems for the person if they were to discriminate against that person without actually knowing them. And a good way to know them is actually go by what their legal status is like, their demographics, and meeting them in person. Then you get an idea, or you actually get to know that person just by doing that, and you don't really need to get to know them personally. That's enough for a lot of people. They're like, yeah, okay, so I know what kind of person this is. Like, I get an idea of this. I don't know them personally, but I know this is what they do, and this is what they will most likely do. Right? And I get that, like, a lot of people who were in the below poverty line, they were very jealous of me, and they were hating me. Specifically because I'm like, why do you think discrimination laws exist? Because there's people like me in your income bracket that don't like you. Right? And the reason why they don't like you, there's discrimination against you guys exists, is because of people like you. You guys are the exact reason why nobody likes people below the poverty line. Because you justify everything by saying, oh, I need to steal, or if I didn't have this, blah, 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 blah. You just can't accept reality for what it is that, hey, it sucks that you were born into that situation, but guess what? It's not actually any better on the other side. And on top of which, you know, a lot of people who actually managed to get their way out of that income bracket, they didn't get their way out of that by being an antisocial asshole. That's not how things work. And yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great if you made a bunch of money, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff? Don't you think a lot of CEOs and a lot of corporate people, they do what they can to be a part of it just for a minute? Right? They want to feel wealthy for a second. They want to know what life is like without having to worry about that kind of stuff, right? Like, they're not stressed out because they don't have to pretend to be somebody else to be socially acceptable. But I'm like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, like, you're giving me problems and I hate you for it. For no fucking reason, I actually don't know you. Like, I don't have anything to do with you personally. I don't actually know you, and you've never even once introduced yourself to me, and you just hate me specifically because I'm not like you, and you're expecting me to be friends with you. Like, do you not see the amount of problems that you're just saying right off the bat? And a lot of people, like, I get that. I honestly, if I was in your situation, I would be hesitant in meeting anybody from this income bracket too. But but the thing is, you act like your family's never been in this situation. Like, do you think people magically generated wealth out of nowhere? They were born into wealth. People managed to make a lot of money somehow through generations, and they did what they can to make sure that their kids were gonna be okay. Right? I mean, I see this all the time. You're not actually that wealthy if you can't actually generate an income without your family's help. And you're definitely not wealthy if you can't generate an income if you can't rely on your family. Like, if your inheritance isn't generating your income for you, then you're actually not very wealthy. You're called working class. Technically. I mean, until you go below the poverty line, then you're poverty class. Right? So it's like, okay, so you make a certain amount of income, that income bracket tells you what kind of wealth class you are. And they've been trying to prevent people from the poverty line from getting up there, specifically because there's family problems that is associated with people from a poverty class. So there's some genetic problems, health problems there. They don't want those people up there, right? Because if you're qualified to breed with one of them, or God forbid they rape them and they have a kid somehow, right? Because they're from a wealthy class, they can afford to raise a kid. Okay, they can send them to schools, they can send them to whatever, they can afford nannies, they can afford drivers, whatever the case may be, right? They can afford those things. Okay, so if that happens, okay, there's a problem with that. They don't actually know, but they're assuming there's problems with that kid because there's something wrong with their dad. There's no way a normal sane person would have done that. That person might have genetic problems, right? And it's like, okay, now you're mixing in with us, and we don't want those problems, right? I mean, we're already doing all that work to make sure that you guys are okay, as in we like make sure that you guys have close to go and buy, and we're making land space for you to make business with other people with your income level. What else? We're actually making sure that you can go from different countries to countries. You don't actually have to do this, okay? You can figure it on your own, but we're doing this because we don't think that it's okay, it's inhuman for us not to do those things. Like, do you get where they're coming from? Like, they don't actually care about you, but without their help and them doing that kind of stuff, you wouldn't even be able to open a business. Where do you think the money's coming from? Right? And the reason why they make so much money and the reason why they can still have a business is because you can rely on them, you can trust them, right? If I give you my $50, you're gonna give it back within a week, like you said. If you can't do that for somebody, you can't run a business. No one's gonna trust you. You can't even open up a business without going bankrupt within a week, right? And again, this is something that a lot of people below the poverty line don't understand, right? I'm like, this is why you don't generating an income, because you need other people who you don't know to trust you to do things. And you need to be able to trust people that you don't know to do things. And you need to be able to discern them, right? You need to be like, this is this type of person. I know for a fact this person's going to screw me over. I know this person's going to try to steal from me later on. And I know this person's good for what they're saying. But I can't be friends with them. We have very different opinions, right? I know this person has stolen. I can tell that this is stolen product that they're trying to sell me. I know that this is legitimate product, but I don't trust where it's coming from. Like, that kind of stuff, right? They can tell right away, because they're around people all day, right? And a lot of people assume, like, yeah, they're not like the poverty people where they're like, I know, like, honestly, without the taxpayer money, and guess what? Most of the taxes are coming from the wealthier people. How much taxes do you think poor people pay? It's percentile, right? It's like 10% of your income, let's say, the income tax. If you're making $10, that's like a cent. That's 1 penny. If you're making $100,000, 10% of that is like what? $100? I don't actually know. I'm not really good with math and percentiles. But yeah, okay, that's significant difference, right? Yeah, you're still paying taxes, but you can't afford to pay. You can't even afford a percentage of what they pay per tax. Like, that's not even how much you make. That's less than what you make, what you can pay. Like, some people, okay, income level $100,000. 10% of that is what? $100, right? 10,000? Is it $10,000? 50% of that, 50,000. 10%, yes, $10,000. If you make $1,000 a year, you're not even making enough to pay how much they pay per tax. How do you think they're running all these government systems and government thingies? Like, do you think that they're not taking advantage of these people? The reason why they're okay with that is because there's some sort of skew when people generate income and wealth, and it's because of the fact that some people can't be that person to work those positions, and it has nothing to do with them. It's their parents. They chose to breed and make a person, right? And they haven't actually done anything wrong or illegal, and they haven't really done anything to, like, whatever, right? So they have to give them a fair chance, otherwise it's inhuman. Like, you can't just be an asshole for no fucking reason. This is unreasonable. How the fuck are you gonna... Unreasonable people don't make money. I'm sorry, that's just the truth of it. And at the end of the day, they keep telling people, like, hate the rich or whatever. Okay, these people who make that much money are the reason why you cannot afford those things. Okay, they're keeping those places open from the wealth that they're generating, right? And it's because of that is why you have all these community resources, and they have that because you actually can access those. You're not gonna go steal from other stores because there's actual reason for you to access those. And in case you do, there's a legal reason as to why you're going to prison. Like, oh, I stole clothes from this place, right? Like, I needed a coat. It's cold. That's why I stole a coat from the store. And they're like, we have clothing banks open so you can get clothes from there, right? Because you don't have any money, so you can rely on people's donation. People don't need this stuff anymore, but it's still usable. You can get one of those and wear that. What's the problem? Why are you stealing? And that's why you go to prison, okay? That's why. If you had a legitimate reason, such as there's no clothing donation banks, or every donation bank that I've been to in the city, okay, has rejected me. They said they can't give me any of the donations. And they're like, okay, then in that case, you can go to court and you can argue that, and they'll be like, okay, fair enough. That's it. Like, what do you think the people were doing? This is why I'm just like, yeah, I get that. And a lot of people, all these celebrities, are actually working class. There's no, it's not a lot of money that they're making. And people who watch that stuff, it's for the poor people. Most of them are mentally ill. They find that kind of stuff funny and amusing. They're trying to keep them occupied so they're not out on the streets hurting other people. That's it. That's the reason why they're making that stuff. Again, I get that a lot of people don't want to admit that because then it's a blow to their ego. It bruises their ego, right? A lot of people who live here who weren't like that also got a blow to their ego, realizing why they're in that situation and who's actually doing that kind of stuff, and how they had personal choice in what they could have done, but they chose to be in that situation anyway because they're that type of person. Their preferences are oriented towards certain things, right? And, like, honestly, it's a lot more beneficial to society as a whole, like as a species, if people can get their shit together and turn their life around, than if they're dead, right? It's like, okay, if this guy can learn from his mistakes and can actually be a functional member and dependable member of society somehow, right, because he's realized that there's more rewards and benefits to doing so than being a piece of shit, right? Then, you know what, not only have we gained a new employee, but we have gained a new taxpayer, and now he can be a member of society that other people can learn from, right? And not to mention, he's a decent person now, and even with that stuff, we can still rely on him to do other things. We don't have to go and look for people in another country to do that job, because that in itself is also very, very costly. Costs a lot of money for immigrants to live in a different country. That's it. That's the only reason. And it's like, okay, like, I don't understand how you as an adult are not aware of this already. I'm 27, and I just started realizing all that kind of political bullshit when I was like, what, 23, 24? And then I was like, shit. And then they're like, people actually told me, like, the reason why you're having such a hard time is because of the working class. They're actively working against you and themselves at the same time, because they don't want to admit a lot of them are actually just scraping by. They're not actually higher income level, but they consider themselves to be the top percentile, the wealthy, the top class, right? Why? Because they can have access to those products and they don't have significant problems when they purchase those products. That's why. They can afford to purchase it. That's why. And I'm like, yeah, I don't... Excuse me. I'm not actually, like, saying you don't deserve those things. And I'm not saying you're not like those people or you're like those people. But at work, you're exactly like everyone else. And you know what? I've seen the way they run businesses here from supposed multi-millionaire corporation that generates a lot of income. They run it like it's a small business. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, okay, if you're at work and there's an employee that you just don't like, you need to shut the fuck up about that and do your job. No one cares. Okay, you have personal problems at work, you take it outside of work and you talk to that person in your own personal time. I just don't understand how it's like, okay, people don't want to hire you because they have employees who have problems and it's going to cause problems for you and everyone else. And I'm like, why'd you hire them to begin with? It's as if you were waiting to fire them. Or you're going to just you're going to drown in debt trying to keep them on your team. They can't work. Why are you hiring them if they can't work? And their defense is that they're not going to quit on me. And I'm like, that's not the point. Look, if somebody quits on you or they can't work for you or they find a different job or better position or whatever, right? Or they learn stuff from you, which is what they're supposed to be doing at work, right? Then they move on, you find another person to replace that person. There's so many people out there you can use to work that position. Right? It's just like, they make it sound like it's such a hard thing. It's like, yeah, but then I'm gonna have to, like, meet new people and, like, learn what they're like, and I don't know anything about them. It's like, why do you care? If anything happens at work, you can file for reimbursement, you can call the police, you can file reports. Like, this is stuff that exists for a reason. And I'm like, I don't understand what they're even saying. And it's like, okay, no, it's like... And they're like, yeah, don't you think it's hard to, like, get out of that income bracket? And I'm like, yeah, because of you. It shouldn't be this hard. But that's why it's hard, because there's stupid, ill-bred, mentally ill people like you who refuse to get their shit together, right? And the reason why they're not killing you off is that you can actually one day turn it all around, and you owe a lot of people money. That's the thing. You owe a lot of people a lot of money, and the only reason you're alive is because you need to slowly pay that off, and they've been getting it from you somehow by the fact that you're alive. That's it. I'm so sorry about this. But, like, you can't just, like, this, again, the kind of working class. But, yeah, they thought they were better than the poverty class, and you know what? The wealthy people don't give a shit. Why? Because it doesn't matter. The only difference is that some people were born in there, and some people weren't. Like, that's literally the only difference. And I wasn't even born there. I was just, like, kidnapped out of my home and forced to live with a bunch of strangers since I was born. And they're like, yeah, that's normal. And I'm like, it's not normal. And you keep thinking that I'm related to them because you can't see a difference between me and other people. And, like, you know what? If you can't understand this by now and you're like 35, just forget it. Just stay in your income bracket. Just be miserable if you want. No one cares. This is the part that's so frustrating because these people are telling me they hate me and they have so many problems because they think I care. Do you think I'm gonna do something for you? Are you giving me so much problems that I don't have any time to focus on anything else but myself? Like, literally, like, oh, I gotta find a place to live. I gotta find some food to eat. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. People are on my ass. Oh, my dog's whining all the time because he's not getting enough exercise. And there's people trying to kill him because they're fucked up, they're mentally ill because they live in the poverty bracket. And they walk along the streets because they don't know where to go. So they walk along the streets begging people to help them being part of their family or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck? And a lot of people who work in the industry, the entertainment industry, they pick those people out of there, right? Because it's like, who else is going to do that? Right? Like, I have aspirations and goals unrelated to entertaining other people. Because it's boring, right? I actually have hobbies that I want to work on. If I work in the entertainment industry, all of my time is gonna be occupied by work. I don't have any time for myself. Like, I get very little time for myself outside of work. Everything is just work, work, work. All my contacts are work, work, work. And all my personal contacts that I very rarely get to meet are gonna be so It's like, how am I gonna meet people if I'm a very famous entertainer? It goes to a club and a bar, everybody recognizes me instantly, and they start talking to me about work, right? And I was like, yeah, and then that's like, okay, that's a work-related social connection now, called social contact, right? How am I supposed to meet people in my personal time? I don't fucking know. Maybe the wealthier people, they're willing to do that. They don't. They don't have nothing to do with the entertainment industry because it's specifically for people who have too much time on their hands and don't know that many people, and they find that kind of stuff amusing. Right? It's just, demographically speaking, the mentally ill and the very broke, and there's something wrong with those people. That's who they're targeting. That's what they're for. Just to entertain those people, so they don't go around bothering other people who actually have to work. That's it. And I'm like, it's just okay. So like, how are they gonna meet people outside of work? I don't fucking know. How is that my fault? Like, and then they're like, yeah, and I get that it's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's like punishment, right? It's like punishment for something you've done. What did you do to give them like, deserve to work those jobs? Jesus. And the most frustrating thing is that they think that they're better, but I'm like, the minute that they stop giving you work, you're gonna be right back where you started in the poverty bracket. You're actually not generating an income, you're relying on donation money from people who actually go and see your shows. That's not really generating an income now, is it? People are actually relying on you. And the problem is that they've gotten this thing in their head somehow. Like, they got this weird idea that if no, they get to control who gets to make entertaining things or not. Right? They're like, no, not unless we say it's okay. Well, and it's like, okay, not everybody finds that kind of stuff funny. Not everybody thinks those things are amusing. And there's people who want to be entertained. Right? Like, why aren't you doing that? It's because they don't get it, right? It's like, again, they're not really very smart. And the reason why they're on public display is because if you ever want to be with those person, this is why we're putting it in public. We're saying we're certified them. Like, they don't actually have that many health problems, right? So, like, if you ever wanted to marry them or whatever, go ahead. It's fine. It's like, they're kind of like us, but not really. It's like, you can if you want. They're not, like... But why don't people want to be friends with them? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't know them personally. I just saw them on TV. Yeah, like, as seen on TV products, that's what they are. Like, as seen on TV people, like, do they really do what they say they do? Like, what is the point of them even being there? It's so you can be friends with them. Or, like, just get to know them and be like, they hired the best people, best looking person out of the uglies. So you can look at them and be like, this is the best version of your type that we managed to find. And it can actually work with as long as all these people are involved. Like you guys, you can actually work as long as you're involved with everybody else in your community. Right? And how the similarities there, except this person makes more money because there's other people like you who like to pay these people so they can sing and dance for you. That's it. I know you guys don't, it's disheartening to see them in the same position that you are. Like, you don't want to watch them living in their dingy, cockroach-infested apartment. So we're gonna put them in hotels, make it look nice and pretty. So you're like, oh, that's nice. That looks nice. Yeah, I gotta go get back to work tomorrow, but yeah, that's nice. Thanks. Yeah, that's what that's for. Like, I don't know. But I think it's entertaining. I think it's funny that, like, they think that there's something else. That's what I find entertaining. I don't know if that's for everyone else. So, like, I know that, like, it's not, like, probably not the best way to go look at things or whatever. But I need entertainment. Otherwise, I'd be at clubs. But I don't have enough money to go clubbing. I guess I can rent a hotel for a night, go clubbing that night. I'm like, I don't know if that's worth it. Plus, I have a dog. I'm gonna look after my dog. I'm gonna take him to a dog boarding daycare dog. I wanted to, but I've seen the dogs that are available, and I think that's what people were telling me. They're like, don't put them there. He had to go to a shelter, and he, like, hated me for a week because he said nobody takes care of the dogs there, and they all treat them like shit. And I'm like, yeah, I know, sweetie. Why do you think people... That's the point. So the dogs never want to go back there. And they hire people to do volunteer work because they have community service hours to fulfill. And they can't actually work with the other people because they have too many problems. So that's what they're doing. With doggy daycare, they said it's actually not that different. Some dogs are like that, but they have owners and they put them in doggy daycare. Why? Because, like, they've been giving neighbors problems and stuff like that, and there are people who don't like their dogs for whatever reason, It's not really safe there, so they're paying other people to watch your dogs along with other people, and they're like, if you put your dog there, he might actually get attacked, and they wouldn't know what happened. He might get really sick because there's sick dogs there, and it's honestly like, it's like putting your dog in a park, but it's legal. You can just leave it in the park, and there's other dogs at the dog park. There's 1 or 2 people watching over them. That's it. This is pretty much just leave it there and make sure that like your dog gets fed or has water. And then you can go pick him up after. And I'm like, yeah, but like, are they good? They're like, they can't actually say no to those dogs. Because of the owners. Like, you're not really allowed to say no unless they've done something and they're like, yeah, we can't bring your dog here. Or they have to be like, you have to come bring between these times and that's the only time that your dog can come here. Sorry. But that's it. I mean, that's already whatever. But I'm like, yeah. About 35 minutes of me telling people what the whole social hierarchies are like. Thank God it's global now. I don't have to be restricted to this country. But yeah, they're like, oh, you don't think there's discrimination amongst the wealthy? Pretty sure there is. I actually don't know. This is really bitter because of the beans. What else? Oh, yeah, not everybody is there to help you. They don't like you, and even if they're good people, because you guys aren't friends. How are you gonna be friends with them? There's no need for you to be friends with these people. That's the thing. You gotta find friends of your own thing and do your own thing and whatever. It's not a big deal, honestly, at the end of the day. You're not that important. A lot of them did a lot of work to try to make me believe that I was like such a huge important person, and I was like, I don't think I'm that important. I don't know why you're like spending all your time and energy like trying to harass me and try to take me down as if I have something to do with anything. I don't want to drive somebody crazy. I'm not that important. I got some poor people out there. If they died, people will be losing jobs left, right, and center. But I'm like, what the hell do I have to do with those people? I have nothing. I'm literally trying to find a fucking barista job. It's been near impossible. There's coffee shops all over the city. That's all I'm really looking for. Full-time position as a fucking barista. That's all I really need. I really need to fucking need it all. I'm like, yeah, I know how to make coffee. I know how to clean those machines. I know what this coffee tastes like. It's great. That's really what I need. I can't afford an apartment. I can afford my friend to live in an apartment and marry her for a certain amount of time. One day I'll save enough money for a property, such as an apartment. I'm not really looking to purchase a multi-million-dollar home because I don't make multi-million-dollars a year. I'd be a crazy person if I did that. But it's not. I don't even like looking at that property. Like, it just. Why would I care? That's why, like, if I don't care about it and you're forcing me to look at something that I don't personally care about, I hate it. I don't fucking know these people. I don't fucking know that. Why the fuck are you showing me? I knew a lot of people who were actually poorer than me, but they thought they were richer than me because they were living off their family's property. Again, those are actually poor people. Those are the poor people. They're not the wealthy people. Because they said their family has more money than me, so that means that they're wealthy, and I'm like, I don't know who told you that, but okay. Yeah, they would look at like people's houses and cars they couldn't afford all day, and I'm like, can you legitimately afford any of this property? Like, in your entire lifetime, do you think it's possible for you? I guess that's what's upset them. That's what kind of triggered them or set them off, is that they can never ever afford it, nor can they even rent it, nor can they be near people who will let them go in that property because it's their friends. Like, yeah, I get that. That's super frustrating because it's like, why am I not allowed to have those things? Like, why? It's not even fair. But like, just take a look at yourself and your family and what you've accumulated in your lifetime, like what you have achieved in your life. And that will correlate to the access to the material wealth, okay? The people that know you and people who actually support you. That's how you generate an income, because they consider what you're doing to be beneficial to some extent. If they don't consider it beneficial, you're not going to get any support whatsoever. okay? If whatever you're doing is helping somebody out, and that helping somebody out is helping somebody else out, and they're like, oh my god, it's less of a headache. Oh my god, this is kind of helping. This is kind of good, right? If that's what that is, then yeah, you're gonna be able to generate an income. It's hard to do that because a lot of needs are already filled, and a lot of people's wants have nothing to do with you. If you're kind of ugly, unpleasant, unattractive, you come from a bad family, you got genetic problems, whatever those things are, they don't want nothing to do with you, right? Even if you want to get there, it's like, I get, it just seems unfair, but at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do with all that crap, right? But yeah, that's what that is. I guess a lot of people thought this was an update. It's been like this since the generation, the dawn of civilization. That never changed. The only thing that changed was like, oh look, we got like nice pretty stuff now. It used to look like a bunch of rocks, right? Oh, there's a rock on the floor, yeah, but now we polished it. It's like a little bowl. You know what? We can make bowls out of dirt. That's it. That's the only difference. You're like, oh my god, before I had to train this fucking bird to go and deliver my fucking mail, man. I gotta talk to my friend, but he lives like 50 miles down the road. I can't get there in time. I don't got enough fucking food to last me that fucking journey. I gotta train this bird to do it. It doesn't need that much food anyway. I need to train the bird. They're like, go over there and then come back. And they're like, the bird was like, okay. They went over there, they came back. Okay. And they're like, yeah, fucking train a fucking bird. It's my fucking I feed it because it does something. It's cool, man. And then one day, they're like, yo, I don't need that bird no more. We got this like thing, and if I just press the button, it goes all the way over there. It comes back like a bird, but I don't need no bird. I just need a like little tower thingy. Yeah, it took me like a fucking month to build it. That little device, and it took me a year to build a tower, but you know what? I never have to train a fucking bird again. Don't want to deal with that bird shit. Don't want to fucking feed them any more fucking seeds. I don't want to get pecked no more, okay? I've replaced it. I've replaced a bird with a fucking tower and a little device, and I gave one to my friends so we can talk to each other. And that was it. It's like before we had to shit in a hole in the ground, and now we shit in a fancy hole in the ground. Yeah, so it's not completely on the ground. We got a little seat so you can sit and shit into the hole in the ground. Yeah, and before it was just accumulating in the ground, like it's just on the dirt. But now, because we can filter this, okay? You don't have to smell that shit anymore because we put it through like this like little pipe thing, and it filters it, gets rid of the smell and all the bad stuff, and then it just washes away. We put it back in the dirt that way. I was like, yeah. That's what we did. Hey, before we got this on the ground, I got chairs. Yeah. That's literally it. I get a lot of people like have their own prejudices and opinions, and they've been mistreated and abused in lives, and cry me a river, why don't you? But it's like, okay, you know what? Like, there's been kids who've been like used as sex slaves since they were born, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not even gonna complain about that kind of stuff anymore. But yeah, you don't see them walking around telling everyone they have to be married to a rich, wealthy person for the fact that their parents are fucked up. That's not your God-given entitlement, right? You crazy fucking weirdo. You're probably crazy because your family's crazy. We're not even surprised that you're crazy. It's not what you've gone through. It's because of your family. They're fucked up to do that. You're probably fucked up even if they didn't do that. That's what I be saying. I'm like, I don't want to go walking around and expecting the world to like entitle me or reimburse me for the shit that I went through. Because that's crazy.